This is Pat Smodgy, and you are watching part 15 of my instructional video series, available only right here at On the Pegs. Today, I'm going to be talking about drop-offs. I'm going to start with this knee-high ledge, which, if you were to just roll down it, you might hit the skid plate, you might go over the bars, you might lose control. So what you want to do is carry the front tire from the top out to the ground to clear the skid plate. To do that, you want to slow down before the edge to make sure you pull your wheelie before the front tire starts to go down. And you want to shoot your front tire for about as tall as the ledge is. That's the minimum of where your front tire should land. You should probably shoot for about as tall to twice as tall out into the flats to make sure you clear the skid plate and land nice and solid. Since the front tire doesn't really have to come up very much, the wheelie can be very small, very light, and just enough to carry the front tire to right where you want it to. Then when it lands, compress with your arms and knees to soak up the landing and land controllably and smooth. As the front tire drops, you should keep your body weight back over the rear fender. This keeps the front end from landing too hard and also keeps the rear end from kicking too far forward. When the drops get bigger, the most common way to do them is to wheelie off of the edge and land your rear tire first. This starts similar to before, where you slow down near the edge, pull a wheelie, but this time you're going to pull a bigger wheelie, let the rear tire roll off the edge with the front tire way up, and then let the rear tire drop straight down. Land first. When the rear tire lands, that's when you compress with your knees. When the front tire lands, that's when you compress with your arms to try to soak up the landing as best as possible. Depending on how quick you have to stop after the drop, you can either land with a little bit of throttle or on the clutch, slipping it, or with the clutch completely in and the brakes on if you need to land and stop. It doesn't really matter what gear you're in, first or second works, just whichever one is more comfortable for you to control your wheelies. If you have a very big drop with not a lot of room to stop, you want to make sure you go as slow as possible right on the edge, bring the front tire up nice and high, pause on the rear tire, let the front end start dropping, really get your body weight down and back over the rear fender, and then once the front tire is really starting to get low, then let the clutch out, smoothly try to drop the rear tire to the ground, and that'll make this for the slowest and softest drop. The third basic drop is to land on the front tire when the obstacle is too tall to roll off of and is useful when you need to stop quick and precise. Maybe there's a bike length rock you need to land on, or the ribbon is very tight. This is kind of in the middle of both the other techniques. You start out very similar, but you want to be sure that you don't drop the front end too low and go over the bars, and you don't want to get too much of a wheelie and go too far. So you just wheelie enough to bring the front tire up and stay on the gas a little bit longer than you would if you're dropping the front tire straight down, but not as long as you would if you're trying to land rear tire first, and try to spot your landing with the front tire, land with the brakes on and the clutch in, and be ready to compress your arms when the front tire lands, and compress your knees when the rear tire lands, and hold the brakes tight to try to land and stop as short as possible. If you are just learning drops, don't worry about how far you run out or how much room you start with at first, but as you get more comfortable, you should shorten the takeoff and the landings to try to keep it nice and tight, because it's almost always going to be tight in the sections. It's a good idea to practice all of these techniques on smaller drops and work your way up to bigger and bigger ones, because drops can hurt if you do them wrong.